Okay, so ready to dive into another one. Today, it's the Angry Birds Movie 2 we're looking at, and we've got a whole stack of user reviews plus all the usual stuff from IMDb to untangle.
Right, like we always do, start through it all, see what we can learn about the movie beyond just the basics. And in this case, what we've got is, well, the birds and the pigs, they're not exactly best buddies, right?
Definitely not. Still a lot of history there.
Yeah, long history, but suddenly they have this much bigger problem they got to deal with.
Ice balls.
Ice balls coming from, well, it's a whole icy island ruled by this Zeta, an evil.
Quite a change of pace from those green piggies.
Right. So the old rivalry, it kind of has to take a back seat. They got to team up, head over to this ice island and figure out how to stop Zeta.
So you're saying like the forced alliance is the thing that kicks off the whole story.
Exactly. Yeah, because for the longest time it was just birds versus pigs. Slingshots, stolen eggs, the whole thing.
All that classic Angry Birds stuff.
Yeah, but then bam, ice attacks from like out of nowhere. So that whole dynamic, it just flips completely. And what I found interesting going through these reviews is how Red, he was the big hero in the first movie.
Saved Bird Island, the whole thing.
Exactly, but now he's got to deal with this new setup, cooperating with the pigs, King Leonard and all that.
Doesn't sound like he's too thrilled about it.
Well, a lot of the reviews we looked at, they kind of suggested that he's not exactly loving the idea of sharing the spotlight, maybe even worried he's going to lose that whole hero status he worked so hard for.
Makes you think, right? Like once you're the hero, what happens then? Do you just like automatically keep being all selfless and noble? Or is there always a little bit of ego mixed in there?
One of the reviews actually said something like that Red sees this whole ice ball threat as an opportunity to be the big hero all over again.
So is he really all that concerned about saving their homes? Or is it more about like getting all that attention and admiration again? It adds a whole other layer to him, you know?
For sure, like he's got this insecurity underneath the whole hero thing, and that makes you think about like the pressure of keeping up that image. Once you're the savior, how do you handle situations where you have to, compromise, work with the guys you used to be fighting against? I think that's something the movie's playing with pretty cleverly.
Okay, so then there's Zeta. She's the one launching all the ice, right? And she's voiced by Leslie Janes, which that's already interesting.
Yeah, and she's not just some random villain like wanting to wreck things for no reason. What we saw in the sources was that she's got a whole backstory, like a history with Mighty Eagle, which explains why she's so obsessed with ice.
So what's her deal? She's just tired of the cold?
Seems that way. Like she wants to thaw out her island, but her methods, they're not exactly considerate. It sounds like the birds and pigs are going to have to deal with some pretty uncomfortable consequences.
Well, you can't have a sequel without shaking things up, right? And speaking of new characters, we've got Silver, Chuck's sister, voiced by Rachel Bloom. One of the reviews called her a smart female bird with a love-hate relationship with Red.
Oh, yes, Silver. It seems like she brings a whole different vibe to the group. Like Red, he's all about that action hero stuff, but she's more, brainy, witty. That love-hate thing with Red, that could be really interesting to see. Maybe they challenge each other, force each other to think differently. It's good that they added new characters who aren't just there to help out the main guy, characters with their own personalities and impact.
Right, and then of course we've got the return of Mighty Eagle. Although, wasn't he kind of not as mighty as we all thought in the first one?
Right. Well, it turns out there's a reason for that. According to our sources, there's this whole history with him and Zeta going way back. Maybe that explains why he's not always so eager to jump into danger.
So Mighty Eagle's got his own baggage.
Basically, yeah, it makes him more, relatable. It's like even the biggest, toughest guys, they have their own past stuff that affects how they are now.
I think a lot of people forget that even these animated characters, they can have real depth, real backstories. It's not all just slapstick and silliness.
Oh, absolutely. And we can't forget about the hatchlings. They're back too, right?
Yeah, those little guys. I saw a bunch of reviews mentioning that they have their own little side adventure going on. Something about retrieving lost eggs.
Yeah, and from what we gathered, they bring most of the laughs. Like, reviewers mention these really funny scenes with whales and snakes and just, general hatchling chaos.
Seems like those smaller stories, the ones happening alongside the main plot, they can be really effective. Gives the audience a break, and it usually means more slapstick for the younger viewers.
Yeah, it keeps everyone entertained. And speaking of entertainment, did you see what people were saying about the animation?
Oh yeah, that was pretty unanimous, right? Like everyone agreed that the animation in the Angry Birds movie 2 is a huge step up from the first one.
Totally. I mean, you see that a lot with sequels, right? The studios, they push the technology further so the worlds just become so much richer, so much more detailed. it's clear they put a lot of work into making it look amazing. And from what people were saying, it paid off. Those vibrant colors, the detail and the characters and the environments, it just sounds stunning.
But the humor, it seems like that's where opinions start to diverge a bit.
Yeah, humor's snicky, right? What one person finds hilarious, another might find totally flat.
Some people were saying it was surprisingly funny, even much funnier than the first movie.
Yeah, but we also saw some reviews that called it predictable. And there was one that, well, it didn't hold back. They basically said the movie was a turd with only a couple of second-rate laughs.
Ouch.
Ouch is right. I mean, that just shows how subjective it all is.
Totally. And, it sounds like they went for that broad, kind of slapstick style of humor, trying to appeal to a wide audience.
Yeah, the sources mentioned stuff like, well, remember how the pigs were burning and people were smelling bacon, that kind of thing. And of course, all the hatchling antics. But yeah, that balancing act, trying to make everyone laugh, it's tough.
And then there's the whole plot thing. A lot of reviewers were saying it felt kind of familiar, kind of like a rehash of the first movie, discovering a new island, that whole idea.
Right, and some felt like the pacing was off. Too rushed, probably because the movie is a bit shorter than the first one.
One reviewer even said that they crammed so much in that it was hard to, focus on any one thing.
Yeah, I can see that. It's a constant struggle with sequels, isn't it? You want to give people something new, but you also got to stick with the things they loved from the original. And then trying to find that sweet spot with the pacing, especially for a movie that's meant for families, that can be really difficult. Plus, some people felt like the movie was missing that, those heartwarming moments that they remembered from the first one. So maybe the overall tone is a little different in the sequel.
Yeah, but then there was the other side. Some people actually liked that the plot was straightforward, simple. They said it was perfect for a family movie, like just a fun way to spend 90 minutes.
Shows you how different everyone's expectations are going into these things.
Makes you think maybe they were prioritizing the comedy, the action, over telling a more, complex story.
Could be. Maybe they decided to streamline the plot to make space for more jokes, more visual gags. It works on some people, but others, they want more depth.
Right. Okay, so let's go back to those characters for a sec. Red's journey, that's still the main focus, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. He's still figuring out this whole hero thing, still looking for validation, especially now that Silver's in the picture.
And it seems like he's still got a lot of those same insecurities.
That's what the sources were pointing to. He's the hero now, but he still wants everyone to like him. He doesn't want to share the attention. And his interactions with Silver, those seem to be forcing him to face those vulnerabilities, which, that could be a form of character growth.
So maybe he's growing, but it's because of his insecurities. It's like that saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Right. And then there's the whole birds and pigs thing, that whole frenemy situation. A lot of the reviewers thought that was pretty funny.
It's a classic dynamic, right? You hate each other, but you have to work together.
Exactly. It's just inherently awkward. There's still that distrust there, but they have to cooperate. That's a recipe for some great comedic moments. And who knows, maybe even some unexpected bonding.
We'll never know unless we watch the movie.
Right. Okay, so stepping back a bit, looking at the big picture, the movie's got a 6.4 out of 10 on IMDb, which is, it's okay, but not amazing.
Kind of reflects what we saw in the reviews, right? Like, some people had a blast, thought it was even better than the first one.
Yeah, but others, they were disappointed, predictable, unoriginal, all that.
I saw a bunch of criticisms about the pacing, how it felt rushed, and the plot feeling too similar to the first movie, and even read some people didn't find him as likable this time around.
Yeah, some were even calling him petty and selfish, which, if that's true, that would definitely take away from the experience.
But it wasn't all bad. The voice actors, they got a lot of praise. Jason Sudeikis, Josh Gad, Leslie Jones, they all did great. And the animation, that was consistently praised.
Yeah, the voice cast is so important for these movies. It's what brings the characters to life, and that animation, that's a big draw for a lot of people.
And some reviewers said that the humor worked for both kids and adults. So, they managed to hit that sweet spot at least some of the time.
Right, and that's what a lot of these family movies are aiming for.
And just for the record, on IMDb, it's listed as action, adventure, animated, comedy, and family. So that pretty much tells you what you're getting into.
Yeah, no surprises there. Straight up family entertainment.
Now, before we wrap things up, there were a few interesting tidbits we came across. Apparently, they had this whole plot idea where the Eagles just wanted to destroy Piggy Island.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, but they scrapped it because it was too serious. That's a pretty big change, huh?
It is. Makes you think about the kind of movie they were going for. Clearly, they wanted to keep it light, keep it funny.
And it's interesting to think about this movie coming out the same year as those other big animated sequels, like The Secret Life of Pets 2 and Frozen 2.
Oh yeah, especially Crazy 2 because they've got Josh Gad and Sterling K. Brown in both movies.
It's like a snapshot of the animated movie world back in 2019. Oh, and here's a fun little detail. One of the Eagle Guards is seen reading a book called Crazy Rich Avians.
Get it, like Crazy Rich Asians.
Exactly. And Awkwafina, who's in Crazy Rich Asians, she voices Courtney in Angry Birds 2. I love those little meta references.
Yeah, those are fun. Shows that the filmmakers are having a little fun. And speaking of fun, did you see that they apparently missed a continuity error?
Oh yeah, that thing with Mighty Eagles Mountain.
It goes from night to day in the middle of a scene.
Oops.
It happens. Those little things, they slick through sometimes. But hey, at least someone caught it.
Right. And last but not least, we got to mention King Leonard's line when he sees that giant ice ball. He says, we're going to need a bigger slingshot.
Classic. Couldn't resist a little Jaws reference, could they?
Nope. Okay, so to wrap things up, the Angry Birds movie 2, Birds and Pigs, forced to team up, got to stop Zeta and her ice attack.
We meet new characters, learn more about the old ones, and the animation, well, that was pretty much universally praised.
The humor, the plot, those got mixed reactions. But overall, it seems like a decent enough sequel. Good for a fun family movie night.
And I think it leaves us with a question. It's a question we see with a lot of sequels. How do you make a movie that both satisfies the fans and brings something new to the table? Was this movie a natural next step for the Angry Birds story, or was it just a fun but kind of predictable sidetrack? Something to think about, right?
Definitely. And on that note, we're signing off. See you next time for another deep dive.
Until then.